Advanced Financial Modeling, Topic 1, Section 5. In this topic, we're going to create user-defined functions using VBA. Now, a user-defined function is a saved list of instructions that Excel uses to produce a value. Once created, the function can be used like any built-in function like slope, r-squared, and average. Unlike built-in functions, these user-defined functions we're going to create are attached to a particular workbook and not accessible through other workbooks. We're going to write these functions inside modules. Modules are accessed in the VBA editor section of Excel. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Excel. And to write a program, what we're going to do is we need to get to the VBA section. If you have a developer tab, you can click on Developer, Visual Basic. However, you can also just do the shortcut Alt F11 and get to the same place. Now, if you want the developer tab, you're going to go File, Options, Customize Ribbon, and make sure you have the developer tab selected and hit OK. So I'm going to hit Alt F11 again. Now, all VBA programs and macros are going to be written in modules. So this is a VBA project section of Excel, or the VBA environment. Notice up here it says the name of my spreadsheet. I'm actually working on the end file right now. And if I look over here, you can see here's sheet 1 we created, sheet 2, that's the market returns, and sheet 3 had the Farmer French data. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my spreadsheet, FinMod 1, end file, and I'm going to insert module. And here's where I'm going to write my programs. Now, every program line in VBA, every function, has the same format. It always starts off with the first line, and you must say the word write the word function. Then give the function any name and give the parameters inside these brackets. We're going to hit enter, and then there's going to be a closing line inserted by VBA, and that closing line is going to be end function. And then we're going to put some kind of calculation in between those two. So let's go back to Excel. I'm going to type in the word function. It's going to be hard to see that. It's hard. I'm not able to increase the size of this. So I'm going to write the word function. I'm going to give the function a name, CapM. In CapM, I'm going to open up a bracket, and I'm going to type in the parameters, RF, comma, beta, comma, MRP for market risk premium. And again, CapM could be any name you can think of. These parameters could be any name you can think of. I'm then going to hit enter. And let me try to expand this a little bit. So you can see I type function, CapM, RF, beta, MRP, and then the system, once I hit enter, the system or Excel put in end function. Notice word function and end function are blue. That means it's reserved words. That means I could not have a function or parameter with the name of function or the name of end. I'm then going to put in my program line in the middle. And usually that involves, very basic functions, involves a simple formula where you start off with the function name again, and you say CapM is equal to RF plus beta times MRP. I'm then going to close this magnifier. I'm going to close out just the VBA environment. And now I am able to use my function. So what we've done, we went to Alt F11 or VBA environment. We then inserted a module, or we used an existing module. Now be careful, if you write programs, you only have to insert a module one time. If you keep inserting multiple modules, you can have multiple programs. I would suggest you only insert one module for each workbook. I then created a function called CapM, where I typed in function, CapM, beta, market risk premium, and RF. I hit enter, end function appeared, and then I wrote CapM is equal to risk-free rate plus beta times market risk premium. Now we're ready to use that function in our workbook, and we're going to insert it similar to inserting other functions. So I'm going to back to Excel and say I wanted to use my function here. Here's the CAPM return. I'm going to delete it. And I'm going to instead insert a function here by coming to the insert function icon right here, where it has a drop-down menu. I'm going to switch that to user defined, and I'm going to look for my function called CAPM. And I'm going to hit OK. So now it looks like a function like all of Excel's functions, except it doesn't have a description yet. But I'll put in my risk-free rate. I'll put in my market risk premium, 626. And then where it says beta, I'll input capital 1's beta. Hit OK, and there we have it. We now have that function. I can then copy that function here, and you can see I'm now using that function instead of the formulas. Couple notes. If you make errors in your VBA program and it locks up, you're just going to hit the reset button. Let me show you where that is. Go back to Excel, Alt F11. And if you can see right here is a reset button. Sometimes if it gets stuck, a reset button, and you hit the reset. Also notice if you look right here, it says Module 1. If I were to insert a new module, it'll be Module 2, but I'm warning you, don't do that. Let's just have one module per workbook, because one mistake, or an error that commonly happens, if I were to type in the function CAPM in this module, and then I were to type it into this module, Excel wouldn't know which one to use, because in theory they could be two different functions. So it would just look like it would not appear in your drop-down list. So I'm actually going to delete that module, right-click, remove module 2, and I do not want to save. All right, so that's the reset button. I gave you the warning about more than one module. And also, last thing I want to talk about is if you create a program in VBA, when you save it, File, Save As, you got to make sure that this is going to be a macro-enabled workbook. So look that Module 1 start file was not a macro-enabled workbook. So if I were to save that using the current format extension as a workbook, I would lose all my modules. So I'm going to save this as a macro-enabled workbook. And then I'll hit save. So that's how to create a function, a user-defined function in VBA in Excel. Here's the total file. If you double-click into this area anywhere, you'll be inside the workbook, and you could copy formulas or look at formulas. Here are some links to data and some theories. So you can see here's a link to Yahoo Finance where I got my stock prices. Here are some links to some interesting articles from Investopedia and Wikipedia on looking at the CAPM and Farmer French. And here's some of the NYU professor's webpage to get data on expected returns or historical returns on stocks and bonds. Here's Ken French's website to get data on Farmer French, and so on. So, in this topic, we computed historical returns. We estimated returns using CAPM and global CAPM. We computed the Farmer French 3-factor returns. We estimated returns based on fundamental analysis. And we had an introduction to creating user-defined functions using VBA.